While the concept of mixed migration has been used in academic and policy circles since the 1990s, the surge in migration across the Mediterranean to Europe since 2010 put mixed migration high on the global agenda. Addressing large and complex flows of migrants became both a key political and policy challenge. In their efforts to respond, governments and humanitarian actors sought research and data that could help explain the causes, dynamics, and conditions of mixed migratory movements towards Europe. Hello and welcome to this podcast series where we speak to scholars on mixed migration issues in the North Africa region. The Mixed Migration Hub partnered with the American University in Cairo's Center for Migration and Refugee Studies to establish the network of scholars on mixed migration in North Africa. The new network acts as a knowledge platform on mixed migration and aims to contribute to enhancing national migration policies and frameworks in a sustainable and humane manner along the North African migration route.
In today's podcast, we will speak to Dr. Ahmed Gamal Eldin, Associate Professor of Development and Migration at Ahfad University, on his policy brief about the conceptualizations of mixed migration and their implications. I'm your host, Tamim Alian. Hello, Dr. Ahmed, and thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
How did the concept of mixed migration develop and why?
The concept of mixed migration has emerged and evolved for over 3 decades now as an outcome of critical debate by scholars on migration, international migration, but also as a response to pressing realities pertinent to the sharp increase in irregular migration in particular, and the challenges posed to the governance of mixed migration, the massive increase in international irregular and undocumented migrants around the world, but specifically in our region, North Africa, and also the challenges that this has posed specifically to the international refugee regime and the work of the UNHCR. In this respect, I think mixed migration can reflect a challenge to the dominant paradigm that is based on binary categorizations of migration. This paradigm tends to be monocausal, looking to or believe that migration can only be caused by one factor, and therefore end up in binary assumptions about and characterizations of forced migration versus voluntary migration, regular versus irregular, political versus economic, and so on and so forth. Mixed migration can also be viewed as an attempt to address the questions such as how we may deal with international migrants who actually do not fall and included in the narrow 1951 conventions of the UNHCR, but those who at the same time do not fit in the international labor migrations of the ILO. And in this respect, you will find that the different meanings and different conceptualizations and emphasis being used in various ways. For example, some people use besides mixed migration, refer to situations as mixed movement, mixed flows, people on the move, and asylum and migration nexus was contemplated by some at certain time.
What is the state of mixed migration in North Africa right now?
North Africa is a very unique and interesting region in relation when it comes to mixed migration. Mixed migration in North Africa has increased very sharply over the last 3 decades. One of the main global hubs and making the region one of the main global hubs of mixed migrations, and also a laboratory for all approaches and strategies that different people started to use and implement. You see examples of the Khartoum process and the Rabat, the Marrakesh declarations, and so on. And you see countries like Libya, Sudan, Egypt, and Morocco host millions, although the exact numbers is still not known, but we know that the region hosts millions of different categories of mixed migrants that include asylum seekers and refugees, victims of human trafficking, unaccompanied separated minors, and labor migrants, and all others, driven by various factors that can be seen as political oppression, can be conflict, violence, or even environmental, religious, social, and ethnic. The region also hosts some of the most vulnerable migrants. Situation is very stressful The realities in these countries of the region is also challenging, and then the massive numbers pose even more challenges in the region. So the states are struggling to deal with the situation. And then finally, that the region has been perceived as a transit, but that's not the reality. The reality is that North Africa is a source, is also a final destination, and a major hub for migrants from different parts of the world, including Asia, Sub-Saharan Africa, and beyond.
Would you please elaborate on the recommendations of the policy paper?
The policy put a number of recommendations, but the most important that I can share here could be improving, for example, our understandings of how different actors, such as government, conceptualize and operationalize mixed migration. Second recommendation is exploring and highlighting the need to explore and highlight the regional perspectives of the concept and expand in independent research. Third recommendation is pertinent to improving the protections and the provision of assistance for all migrants, just the refugees, regardless of the legal status of those migrants. And the fourth recommendation is the importance of collaboration. None state or no actor can do it on their own. There's a need for collaboration, share burden, and share responsibilities among actors within the region and also between states in the regions and beyond, with international actors are important. Yeah. And then states cannot do them on their own. We recommended that civil society, academic institutions have another important role to play. And finally, that we need an international framework to define the roles and responsibility and to provide guidance for states on how they can deal with this mixed and complex phenomena of migration.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Ahmed, for your time and your valuable insights. Listeners can go to the MHub website for additional information.
Thank you very much.